Welcome, everyone, to Homestead-Miami Speedway. Welcome to the season finale of the HTL Challenger Series on ABN, a special Friday night of racing coming up here as we get ready to go. 16 drivers either trying to win a title or trying to play spoiler tonight here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And it's coming up next here on ABN. "125 laps sit ahead of the field going into this event, the 14th and final race of the HTL Challenger Series for Season 3. And it ends here where stock car racing seasons ended for a long time during the 2000s and 2010s. But we are ready to go racing in a big way here tonight. 125 laps, stage ends on lap 60. That's the important note there. This race is going to transition to a nighttime period here, starting with a little bit of sunset, a little bit of sunshine. The track will get cooler as this race goes along. The wind speeds not unmanageable, 6 to 10 miles an hour here around this 1.5 mile oval. Oval in every true form here. It is progressively banked, which means you're going to see drivers work every lane of the racetrack here to try to make things happen. It is a racetrack that typically creates some frenzied racing when done correctly. We'll see how the truck drivers handle things tonight. Points going into this race. Everything looks a little bit different, a little bit odd, a little bit more of a throwback is what we've got going on here. But this is sort of what everything looks like right now with one race remaining in the championship competition. Josh Soucy, a healthy lead, 40 points over June Jimenez and Christina Ryan, a further 11 points behind. But a reminder, 65 points are on offer. So everyone that is really, look at Eli Sasek, who's not here tonight. It comes down to Christina Ryan and June Jimenez to try to take that challenge to Josh Soucy. We'll see what that looks like, though, especially once we get through the stage on lap 60. That'll really shift things around quite a bit. You see Josh Gaiman, Dakota Osborne just outside the chase there. Josh Gaiman, once again, present as well. And he could play a factor in how this race turns out in that 61 machine. But in the middle, you got Dustin Hall, who's obviously not here as well. He's on his travel to Vietnam. We wish him safe travels as well. Davis Muir Jr. has the ability to climb up the standings here. Blake Henderson does. Alfred Denny does. Blue Jade, Byron Jones. And for those that are not sitting, in championship contention, there's still a reason, there's still a value to gaining positions here. That is monetary value. There's prize payouts for positions in the standings here that are on offer for both the drivers and the owners. So there's a huge amount of incentive for these drivers to push pretty hard to get some of that extra prize funding to end out the season. So we're going to see a lot of battles for those positions as well here tonight. That being said, we do have the starting grid on hand here. Those marked in red are in the championship conversation. Those marked in black are not a part of the chase. The three you need to remember: Josh Soucy in the 81, Christina Ryan in the 80, and June Jimenez sitting second in points in the middle of both of them in the 11. They're all in the top 5. Josh Soucy ahead of Josh Gaiman as things currently sit right now. Josh Gaiman alongside in row number 1, separated by 24 milliseconds on the qualifying grid here. We're missing a very important little piece of things here, and that is the starting grid music. Looks weird, but we'll go with it. Bailey Thompson in row 2 alongside Christina Ryan, teammates there for Africa Motorsports. June Jimenez alongside Brady Smith here in row 3. Blake Henderson sitting in row 4. This track has cursed him before, took him well out of the championship conversation in the Cup Series last season. Blue Jade will start alongside in row 4. Blue Jade also likewise snake bitten here in Miami. Byron Jones and Spencer Teal will make up row 5, and then Bobby Flowers and Davis Mule Jr. make up row number 6. Row 7, Dakota Osborne and Alfred Denny. And your final row, John Matthews and Wesley Worley make up the 16-car field, getting ready to go racing here tonight. And the field beginning to roll off. You see what we're dealing with. We are glad you are with us. Hearing that we're not having a lot of game audio, we'll see if we can rectify that. I believe it was a headset issue. And that was a headset issue, so we have resolved that. You can now hear the sights and sounds in full here in Homestead-Miami Speedway. We appreciate everyone being with us. The storms delayed us. They didn't stop us. And now we get to see the roar of thunder here in Miami. The pace car pulls in. Susie and Gaiman front row. Teammates lead us to green. We're underway in Miami. Trouble already. Trouble already. Back of the field, David Smith Jr. in trouble. Byron Jones from pit lane. Alfred Denny involved as well. The trouble immediately for David Smith Jr. Take a hard look here at what happened on this go around in just a moment. So trouble on the start to kick things off here. David Smith Jr., Alfred Denny, both in the mix. And that bails out Byron Jones right to the tail of the field for him. Not involved in any of this. He is ready to go. So we're going to do this manually on this go around. So let's go back and take a look at how this opening lap played out. And let's go to our handy dandy chopper cam. Davis Smith Jr. in the white roofed number 10. Is just bottom center of your screen. It's going to zoom in on him here. He's alongside Dakota Osborne. And we're starting a little bit further back than he wanted to. And around he goes. Not really a lot for Danny to do. He locks up the rear brakes. The trouble, and they all go sideways here on the opening lap. Just a little bit of instability. This is back to real pictures, real-time action. As the field stays out on this opening lap. While we've got the chance to, we will shout out our patron supporters over at patreon.com/ABN Studios. A lot of support, especially this past week with the storm and the outage and everything that went with it. Trade Up Slogan, Dogman2935, Eli Sasick, Jason Scott, Alfred Denny, Weekend Hobby 22, Philip Snipes, Tyler Head, B-Dogs, Colin McDonough, Blue, KJ Gibney, J-Paw, Jake Potak, and June. Thank you all for sticking with us for a rough and wild week on ABN. Things slowly getting back to normal. Thankfully, we've weathered that storm pretty well. Whether you're subscribed to the Premier tier or the Plus tier, you're featured every week on ABN Sports Broadcasting. If you're the Plus tier, your name's mentioned in the ticker down at the bottom of the screen. That sometimes overlaps and gives people OCD. But we live with it because we want to make sure everyone's included. That supports us in a big way. If you want to join that group, the QR code is on your screen, so you can head on over and get started. Gonna be a fun weekend. Winstall on Sunday. We got ABN Unplugged, the podcast where we get to cover everything going on. IndyCar in Canada. We get to cover the storms that took us offline this week. Dive into a couple of the issues leading into next week's activities. All that's coming up this weekend. So a lot of fun there. For those tuning in, we'll also be covering the calendar for the HTL Challenger Series in Season 4. 14 race calendar for next season. ARCA cars, that was announced during ABN's 8th anniversary celebration. And now we know where the Challenger Series will be racing when things kick up after Labor Day here in the U.S. We'll cover that at the end of this show or during the stage break, whichever comes first. Josh Susi, Josh Gaiman, front and center in the field. As they were on the initial start, they will line up and give it another go, this time with all 16 on the racetrack. Byron Jones at the tail of the field is with them. And let's give it another go. Green flag is back out. Gaiman out front early here. See everyone move for lane choice pretty early. Blauer's running a little bit higher up than everyone else right now. Looking for real estate, looking for a way forward. As Gaiman leads the first full lap under green. Blauer's Henderson working against Brady Smith. Henderson up top. Blauer's in the middle in that 35. Brady Smith in the 95 on the bottom of the racetrack there. Through 1 and 2. Blauer's goes up top now. Henderson moving forward. He is now in the 5th spot. Here comes Christina Ryan for 3rd. Looking to try to move into the race lead. Trying to slice and dice to the front. Jimenez there in that Yahoo machine. And number 11 sitting in 4th. All three your main contenders for the championship are in your top 4. Henderson chasing the draft down the back straightaway. Yeah, everyone pedaling it. Christina Ryan battling with Josh Gaiman. A little bit of contact there. Christina Ryan to the front of the field. She'll lead a lap in Miami. Everyone beginning to get into a groove here. Lap 8 underway. Getting into a bit of that rhythm here. Blowers and Henderson, they continue to battle here. Now Henderson under pressure from Brady Smith further back. Who all fans out? Who picks what lane here? Now that we've begun to put some wear on the tires here, Christina Ryan right in the middle of the racetrack. Henderson up top. Everyone else scrambling. As we roll forward. Lap 10 now underway. We're having an issue. This could be a problem. I think we're having an issue, actually. I think it is frozen. It has frozen. All right. So bear with us. We'll jump back forward here in just a second. Not ideal circumstances, but we'll get through it. Is that what they mean by the track feels frozen at the time of caution? Yeah, I don't believe they mean coma on that. We just started lap 10 when the system froze, so we'll see what we get back here. Again, bear with us. Doing things a little bit different here. And we'll make the most of it. Is this going to work for us on the reboot? The world may never know. Maybe. What is going on? Oh, we are really frozen, it looks like. This is teething pains, to say the least. think I'm beginning to see the issue, gang. Um, so we are in a holding pattern because we'll take off the little blinders. The replay file that Al sent in doesn't save the full race. It only went to lap 10. So I'm going to need a new replay file to continue the race. This will be fun. I thought that replay file looked a little bit small. Typically, replay files for races are 2 gigs, and it's less. I was less than a gig, and I was like, that's interesting. So, does anyone else have a replay file on hand? I know Byron Jones said he might, but Byron Jones is not available right now. Is anybody out there? We might need to rain check this for tomorrow. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. I know Byron does. He's just not home. Which is fine. I get it. Yeah. Yeah. Al's replay saves about an hour of the event. It saves part of practice, qualifying, warm up, and then the opening part of the race. So he did not enable replay spooling. That's exactly what that was. Ruh-roh. Yeah, we know Byron has a copy. But yeah, I guess we need to check to make sure everyone's got replay spooling. Because if you don't, it won't save. Well, ain't that something? Hmm. I think this is applicable. There you go. Now we're in the please stand by. Yeah, rain delay. There you go. I like that thought process, rain delay. All right, so I guess the next question we got going on here. So, because it looks like we're going to have to rain check this to tomorrow. Do we talk about the calendar now, or do we wait till tomorrow? Yeah, I kind of figured Byron would be the only one. There's not many. Do we? I mean, if Blake would answer me, do we talk about the calendar now, or do we wait until tomorrow? Because I kind of want to talk about it now. It happens. I mean, I'm the same way. If people say like, "Oh, I've got it," okay, cool. If you got it, then we're good. So, do we talk about the calendar or do we wait? Since we are in officially rain delay territory. All right, gang. I'm waiting to see if we do the schedule reveal tonight or if we do it tomorrow. Insert Cody Rhodes GIF. There you go. Until we sit and wait. No one's answering me, and that makes me so sad. I've not gotten answers from anybody. Blake put a solid like 2 hours of effort into the calendar graphic. I say 2 hours for him. It's like 3 days for me. So there are differences to it. We are a democracy. We did vote for the ARCA card, after all. Uh, do, 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 do. So they kind of walk in while I wait for someone to answer me, either with yes or no. So initially, when we were the initial plan for Tuesday was going live a little bit earlier, um, going live a little bit earlier, going over the schedule and everything, doing interviews and all that stuff, and then doing the race. Obviously, storm happens. We lose basically everything at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. So all that kind of goes out the window. Blake has said, sure. Okay, cool. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the schedule. This turned into a podcast. Haha. All right. So now that we are in full vibes mode, yeah, why not? Do that one. There we go. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go over the calendar. Go ahead and pull that down, and we will center the calendar since everything I was planning on doing for this changed again. Center the screen. All right. So pretty straightforward. Everyone ready? Should have centered it horizontally, didn't I? I didn't. All right, without further ado, here we go. So, Season 4 coming up here for the Challenger Series begins at Daytona. Duh, it's going to. Although the ARCA cars at Daytona is going to be a lot of fun. I'm personally excited for this calendar. We got some road courses in that mix. So kicks off September 8th at Daytona. That is right in line with the Firecracker 400. Then you have the BFL 500. We have the race in Charlotte that we complement that with on September 15th. Then it's New York, Watkins Glen, September 22nd. Talladega on September 29th. Bristol on October 6th. Kentucky, Old Atlanta, Fontana. Pretty good slate of races in that mix as far as how everything goes there. My brain's off on this. I feel like Darlington should be in the mix somewhere in this mix, but it's not. I'm not remembering where it went. But so you have a good 8 races there. Chicagoland, we know how good Chicagoland is. Michigan was an interesting race in the trucks because it's a lot better in the ARCA car, just because the speeds in that ARCA car are just a little bit better, a little more lively in those ARCA cars. Milwaukee is the opening round of the Chase. The Chase is back again as a 4-race format as it was this season. Road Atlanta, Daytona, and Kansas are all in that mix. We want to do something a little bit different now that we kind of know what our goal is, what our ambition is, and sort of what the scope of the series is going to be. The Chase, we wanted to be a mixture of racetracks. We wanted it to be a road course, a plate track, a intermediate, and a short oval. We wanted the drivers, if you're going to go for the championship, to take on every track type that we had on the calendar. And so that's sort of where we went. A lot of people believe in Milwaukee. Obviously, Daytona kind of just fits the bill. Kansas, I think, really is a good place to have a season finale. Kansas was a phenomenal race. It's always been a great race in the HTL community, whether it's been Cup or Challenger, or even National even. So we believe in Kansas being the finale for Season 4. Road Atlanta, first time that we're going to Road Atlanta for HTL, period. No one's gone to Road Atlanta yet, so we get to check that off the list. We get to have some road courses on the calendar. We thought about doing a dirt race. Ultimately, we are not confident with the field that we currently have to pull off a dirt race and have it be compelling. We're hoping that as we build this series and build its identity up, that stuff like USA Speedway, like a dirt Bristol race, something like that, can become viable in the future. But we ended up shelving that idea just because it doesn't fit sort of where we're at right now and with the field that we currently have, what that looked like going forward. So some plans, some ideas that we were sort of flowing around here. This schedule was adjusted several times before it got to the state it's at right now. At one point, Texas was on the calendar. This is the ARCA cars for Season 4. The community voted. We put it up to a vote for the Challenger Series, the drivers, and the drivers were pretty loud that they wanted the ARCA car. So ARCA is what we're going with for next season. So, and that's a vote that we'll do every season, I think. We want to make sure we stay on top of what the community wants and what the community was at. It feels is necessary. We had several cars on the list of options to vote from. The 3 serious options were the O'Reilly's car, the truck, and the ARCA car. We threw in a couple of joke options. The Euro NASCAR vote process sort of grabbed our attention. But ARCA was the one that got the majority of the votes. So that's where we went with. And we're going to make that work. We are also back to a smaller race format. We're moving down to 200-kilometer races, so these are more sprint race formats that we're going with here. A lot of drivers, after we made the move to the longer race format this season, had kind of made their feedback known that fatigue was a real thing for those, especially that race double duty that did both Cup and Challenger. And that was going to become a significant issue going forward. So we had to scale the races back down as far as the length of them to really manage things out as far as that all goes. But we like where the calendar's at. We think the racing's going to be a lot better with the ARCA car going into form here. The tracks being, I think, a lot more curated towards the community instead of it just being a grab bag, a safe selection. Now we've been able to sort of apply some of the feedback we've taken over this last season and put it into what next season's calendar is going to look like here, which is exciting. I'm excited for it. I mean, adding road courses is never a bad thing. Watkins Glen's a popular racetrack. People believe in Road Atlanta. So we're pretty pumped as far as all of that goes, to go out and have a lot of fun. I think that's the big thing is finding the nerve that brings the most fun to the series. This was a really good platform to sort of go off of here, and we got a lot of responses on the voting process as well, with how everything sort of played out. So when we took feedback, we took the vote on it. It is fixed setup. That was also on the voting process. We also had a little bit of blank space for feedback for people that wanted to leave it. People were torn on the extra horsepower. We are still testing the extra horsepower, the extra 10% horsepower. In the trucks, it was important. We stand by that. But with the Arctic car, we're not quite so sure on that extra horsepower. With the races being shorter, the fuel cell doesn't need to be 100%. So we're playing with that. We're testing that on a weekly basis, just sort of gathering the information that we have to see what makes sense there. Someone had made a comment or feedback, and I'll just read it out loud. Someone inserted feedback in the voting process that recommended cutting out drivers that were top 10 in points in the Cup Series. That shouldn't be allowed to compete in the Challenger Series. We're not going to gatekeep, and I'll go ahead and address that. We're not going to gatekeep the series from the Cup regulars just because they're successful. This ultimately, while it is a support series, it is not a development series, if that makes sense. Drivers can come in here and kind of, there's not, the penalties aren't as strict, and you can kind of cut your teeth and get things and get sorted down to business on that. But if you cut out drivers, you're cutting out a part of the core community of HTL. And this series is for everybody, whether you've been racing in Cup forever, whether you're a Cup champion, or if you're someone new. We got to see people mingle together. Wesley Worley was someone that we talked about a lot this campaign. Someone that was coming in and was actively learning every race. And in my opinion, the best way to learn is by having a lot of really good drivers on the racetrack with you. And he improved in a massive way. So yeah, I don't believe the idea of kneecapping or restricting drivers from racing in Challenger just because they are in a points position in Cup. And that's a points position that also is fluid. It's not static. People are in and out of the top 10 all the time. So I don't believe that's the correct call, and that's not something we're going to do. So we are sort of going with that. Well, yeah. We also don't have enough drive. Yeah, I mean, we could scout, like we could go and recruit, but ultimately, this series. Let me put it this way, and this is my perspective, and Blake can share his thoughts on that, on this in a second. Challenger is not a place to bring in new people. Like it doesn't exist for new people. It exists as a smaller series to have fun, to try different things, to try different combinations, different tracks that we've never been to. Road Atlanta is a good one. To see sort of what works. How can we make Milwaukee work? We saw with a lot of We saw with North Wilkesboro. North Wilkesboro, everyone thought was going to be absolutely garbage. It was not the greatest race, but it showed us that, hey, HTL can do short ovals. And that did open the door for us to be like, okay, well, let's see what works. Ultimately, some of the plans that we had didn't materialize for this calendar. We looked at Iowa, we looked at Richmond, we looked at different short ovals that are now being considered for season 5. But those are now firmly on the table. Like, we wouldn't have said that Kern was on the table up until this season. We wouldn't have considered going back to Myrtle Beach. There's a lot of racetracks we wouldn't have really considered going back to had we not seen the races this season be successful enough for us to be like, okay, there is a way forward. But it's experimental. It's a support series at the end of the day. It's there for fun. For the newer drivers like Wesley, it's a place for them to go in and learn the car, learn the community, be around some drivers that are going to be kind of all over the place. They're going to be spread out as far as like where's the top, where's the floor, and be able to learn in a safer environment. I think all the admin team for the Challenger Series was happy to see Wesley on the racetrack and improving week to week, and it was noticeable improvements week to week. And that's sort of where we go from. Josh Hussey kind of hits on the head. Quality over quantity is a good thing as well. We don't need 40 cars in a Challenger Series field to do that. And really, none of the four of us as admins, Eli, Al, Blake, myself, none of us have time to go out and do recruiting and vet people that may not stick. We don't want to invite more Dalton Hayes of the world or anything like that. We want to make sure that there are quality people in the series, and a lot of those quality people are already here. Smaller environments, less stressful, different format, different race lengths. We go out and just have a little bit of fun with it. So that's where we're at right now. There's a lot of calendars that didn't make the cut here. As I mentioned, Iowa, Richmond were two big ones. Texas didn't make the cut either. Homestead-Miami is not on the calendar for this season, for season 4. So there's a lot of racetracks that we kept in the back pocket for season 5. And we're going to look at dirt racing. Again, for us, I didn't believe, and that I think sort of came down to, I think me and Eli were the ones that just sort of said no on it. We just didn't feel confident that the field would be there for dirt racing. HTL tried it in the past and no one showed up. So it was almost a barrel format. Yeah. It was almost a barrel. Like, there was a lot that was on the table this season. And I think, especially with this upcoming season, we're going to learn a lot more with the ARCA car being in play now. Just sort of what people feel. Especially with the Cup campaign still going on. That's a big deal as well. As far as other rule changes and everything, we're looking to have those other rule changes finalized on Tuesday. That way everyone has a few weeks to kind of go over all the rule changes, and we can kind of make sure everyone's in the loop there. So we're still deliberating some things. We're changing the points format. We're experimenting with that. I know that's been a complaint source, both in Cup and Challenger. So we're experimenting with a new format and points for Challenger this upcoming season. We're finalizing that. So there's a lot that we're working on for this upcoming campaign for season 4 that I think it just addresses the feedback and everything that we've heard over the past season that we can put into place. And if it works out, then the Cup Series admins can cherry pick what works and bring it to Cup, and everything just improves, and that's ultimately the point of the Challenger Series. As I mentioned, like we're experimenting with to see what works for Cup at the end of the day. It's a support series where we get to do some different things and see what makes sense. So I think it works out in a pretty big way. But I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks, because I know Davis Mill Jr. was like it missed out on having a dirt race. We thought about it. The thought kind of first came in on Sunday. Less than a week. Either Sunday or Monday, we talked to the dirt race. Kind of the decision came up. That's how late some of the decisions were made. Should have put Slinger on there. I don't have Slinger, to be honest with you. As broadcaster, I don't have it, so I don't have a thought on it. But yeah, the whole idea is like we're gonna test things to see what works with Cup first. See what we might bring into Cup, and Slinger. It was Tuesday night. Okay, I don't remember. I think that might have been right when things were falling apart as far as my service, my internet connection went because of the storms. But it was late. I don't know, because again, we're trying to figure out what works for Cup, and Cup's a way different beast. Slinger. There's a lot of tracks that were on the list. Slinger was never one of them. Myrtle Beach was on that. Myrtle Beach almost made the cut. Iowa up until last week. Iowa was where Bristol is. Up until last week, that was where Iowa was, because we're gonna do Old Iowa instead. But then we thought about it, and it was like, well, we're not really sure because there's a lot the Cup's trying to figure out for next season as well anyway, and it didn't seem like Iowa was really in play for Cup. So it's like, well, let's just kind of stick with what works. Let's stick with what Cup's got for right now for those races, and then kind of go from there. So I still would go to Iowa, with Old Iowa, 2011 Iowa. Gateway was on the list. Gateway's not a bad racetrack. I just didn't think it would race well when we did testing, which is why Iowa got the nod initially. But yeah, so there was a list of tracks that we looked into. Let me pull up the list. That'd be probably a good idea there. So obviously Fontana's on the calendar again. That makes obviously a lot of sense. Bristol ended up making the calendar. Mosport had been considered as one of the road course positions. I'm not a huge fan of Mosport. We were working on a compromise. Road America was on that list. The compromise for Road Atlanta, so we went with that. So there was a lot that we sort of discussed as far as that goes. Old Atlanta's on the calendar, giving New Atlanta a break. Lanier, none of the admin team had a positive opinion about Lanier, so it got shelved pretty quickly. It was never something we considered. Almost, as I mentioned, took a break. It's off this season. Yeah, quarter mile. Anything less than a half mile, we didn't take anything seriously with how that went. Our minimum barometer for tracks, I feel like, is a half mile for the ovals, and I think everyone pretty well agreed with that. Kansas is a finale. Kentucky's on the calendar because it's in the Cup Series playoffs. We wanted that to be the same. And ultimately, that's why Bristol got the nod on the calendar. We wanted as much of the Cup Series playoffs to make sense. Just because the field's small enough doesn't mean it's going to be good. We wanted to prioritize races that we knew would be a lot more fun for this campaign. Again, fun is an important aspect of it. And of the admin team, I'm the only one not racing. And I don't like broadcasting it. And the other 3 didn't have positive thoughts about racing. So it was sort of just bleh. the general mindset about Lanier was just bleh. And there's a lot that were like that. What else almost made the calendar? I'm just kind of going through the list. Las Vegas almost made it at one point. Almost made it into the postseason. It was between Kansas and Las Vegas for the finale. We ended up choosing Kansas because we thought Kansas raced better. We thought about Nashville Fairgrounds. Fairgrounds was close. We want to do more testing, though, because that track is tough. I don't think many want to go to Nashville Super Speedway ever again. But the fairgrounds is something that we just need to test. We thought about Myrtle Beach. Again, that's still on our list for potentially season 5. New Smyrna is another racetrack that was on the list that we looked at there. Pocono. Pocono's a race that I think probably should be on the Challenger Series calendar at some point. I don't think it has been recently. Phoenix not on the season's calendar. We had ducked that one just a little bit. But Phoenix isn't a bad racetrack for ARCA. Richmond, Rockingham. Myrtle is on the... I've soured on Myrtle a lot because I've been through a lot of broadcasts that have just been garbage. So I'm sour over Myrtle Beach because there's not been a series that we've broadcasted at Myrtle Beach that's been good. And as much as I like getting paid, I do want to have fun and enjoy my job too. And Myrtle Beach is soul destroying. Up in the booth, it's soul destroying. It's like watching an entire field just become incompetent. And I was just like, I'm going to push against that one. Rockingham almost made it. I don't think it made the final short list, but it was close. It had been discussed. Ultimately, we thought it didn't race super well, so we didn't want it. Like we talked about South Boston, we talked about Southern National. Kern's on the list potentially for next season. Again, we looked at realistically what would make sense for us to look at for. Again, we were kind of looking like Cup forward, like what would make sense for us to do as far as like looking at potentially bringing things back to Cup, and Kern didn't really make that list. Nashville Fairgrounds and ARCA cars unless track is really cold, a single file boring. That's the way I feel about most short ovals, but that's me. My opinion, short oval racing is the most overrated racing on the platform, but I think part of that's also because most of the series we broadcast for, they have maybe 5 brain cells on the racetrack. Winstell's not even good at short ovals, so I don't really have a lot of confidence there. We looked at South Boston, thought it was too small. Southern National, didn't like how that looked. IRP, no one. I think the entire admin board, Blake just kind of said it. The entire admin board said no to IRP. The chance of IRP happening would need me to die of cancer before it got through. It's just not happening. Yeah, I'm not broadcasting that. I'm not. I'll resign. Nope. Not doing that. Let's see. Thompson. we looked at, said no. Pit lane is awful. And these are races that do have pit stops in them. So, Thompson was a no. USA was a no. What else? For the road course, we looked at Willow Springs. We were split on Willow Springs as far as who wanted it and who didn't. I think it ended up being 2-2. So that's sort of how it fell out. People were just more optimistic about Watkins and Road Atlanta than they were about Willow Springs. Gateway's on the list still. I think it's been long enough. May I ask why? So the reason why. So ABN Sports. As much as we have fun, there is a level of professionalism. When it comes to ABN Sports and what we do as far as the channel goes, we do operate on a more professional level, on a more realistic and immersive level. For me, the multi-class whole ARCA and trucks thing, that steps a little bit too closer to the moon car side of things, and that's the side of iRacing that I try to avoid. So to me, it does more damage to ABN's brand than anything else. Mosport was almost on the calendar. Just got outvoted. People just aren't well versed in it, and not a lot of people own it. Montreal, we never considered. I'll be honest, we never thought about Montreal. Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, Mexico City. We thought about that one. No. That one I want to put on the table because it has the oval. But as far as like the road course for Mexico City, no. That one's off the list. Yeah, I voted no on Mosport just because I don't think a lot of people have it. ABN tried running it. Mosport, and no one showed up because no one owned it and no one wanted to buy it. So I don't know. And I don't know if Challenger has that sort of buying power that people are going to buy a track just for Challenger. So I wasn't sure about that. Mexico City, again, for the oval. The oval's a lot of fun. The road course is abysmal. It is crap. And that's me being nice. What else did we almost put on the calendar? There's some that I don't own that almost made the calendar. There was never any serious conversations, but San Diego and Chicago were both talked about briefly. That's the thing. Like, I don't think everyone's gonna be like Wesley though, right? Like, Wesley, I think was in a unique position because he's the Orlando Outlaws owner, and he already has a bunch. He's already invested a lot in HTL. I think Wesley's situation is a little bit more unique in that situation than what it would be for others that either already racing Cup or don't race full time to begin with. A 26 restaurant in the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna ask you to lay off the cocaine, please. What else? Hickory had been talked about briefly. I don't have Hickory. Hickory ended up being too short. That ended up being how we thought of it. So, but Hickory was mentioned when we were talking about track list. It was too short. Again, we needed tracks to be at least half a mile, and tracks that were less than that just kind of got removed from the list. And those are the only two that I don't currently own that were talked about as being potential ideas. Neither were serious. San Diego had a little bit more purchasing power because Eli did like it. I've never driven it. I never watched it. So, but yeah, there was a lot that we discussed. It wasn't just like sort of hodgepodge, put tracks together and and make it work. We thought a lot about what would make sense. What do people have that we could sort of lean on there, and like it was a hard juggle as far as like what we wanted this season to really genuinely look like. That being said, I think it's a good step forward having road courses back on the calendar. We had none this season. There's a lot of ideas for road courses that I forgot about until I just saw the list. There was a chance that both the road courses on the calendar would have been Rovals. People looked at the new Charlotte Roval. Eli vetoed that one. I vetoed the New Hampshire Roval. I will find someone. If New Hampshire Roval ever makes a calendar, I will not be here for it. I will find someone to suffer through that instead. I will not be there for that. That track is, if I didn't already have cancer, it'd give me it. I have a feeling most board will be talked about again pretty decisively at some point. Not Rockingham again makes me sad. We tested it, and it wasn't impressive. Neither new nor old Rockingham were really impressive. Me and Eli tested it, and neither of us were really happy with it. And that was sort of like, it's okay, well, it's not going to race. If we don't think it's going to race well, we don't want people to sit through and be mind-numbingly bored. But yeah, both me and Eli were not fond of Rockingham. Maybe at some point, maybe. But with how Rockingham is right now, with the ARCA car right now, it's so iffy. But yeah, so there was a lot that we talked about there. It is interesting seeing what everyone else thought about it as well. Obviously, some people wanted more short tracks, and I understand it. But for us, we were just like, we also had to be like, okay, let's make sure we're still kind of keeping things quality-wise where we need them to be. So there's some that we'll look at a little bit further. Again, Iowa tops that list. Iowa is the one that should have been on the calendar that wasn't, I think. But like Myrtle Beach is on that list. Like legitimately, there's a list that, for the first time, there's a list of short ovals that can easily make a HTL calendar, and we've not said that for a while. So, it just takes more testing and more time, and that's hopefully a season 5 thing when we kick off the new year. We can kind of go through and be like, okay, let's figure it all out. That being said, we are going to try to do the broadcast from Miami on so that being said, sorry, I was looking at messages. We're going to try to do tomorrow. We're going to kind of kick it off from the top tomorrow. I need to look and see. I don't want to have a conflict with an actual real life NASCAR race, if I can avoid it. But I will keep everyone. Monza is a fun road course. Monza's fun. Everyone's terrified of turn 1, and I understand why. Monza's a fun road course. It's so much fun. And it's not hard. It's not a difficult road course at all. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow. We got ABN Unplugged on Patreon. That'll be sometime early afternoon. And then we'll do the Miami broadcast after the O'Reilly Series race is over, whenever time that is. And we will roll from there. And then I'll cover the calendar again tomorrow for those that missed tonight. And we can kind of just operate from there. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and end things tonight since we went over the calendar and we couldn't actually do the broadcast. It's almost been a 2-hour broadcast anyway. So I will catch you all tomorrow, and we will take it from the top. Have a good night, everybody.